humanity's desire to live forever and become an immortal existence. And this is why people become interested in cryonics, which is making people frozen and then reviving a few hundred years later. But as time passed, the real problem is that can cryonics really make us an immortal existence? Does any of you know who this person is? Be quiet. For those who don't know, this person's name is James Bedford, and he was born in April 20, 1893. He's a normal American psychology professor, except for the fact that he was the first person in the world to be cryopreserved, which is 처음 보존된. Before I go into my presentation, I'll tell you the table of contents of what I'll introduce you. First is definition of cryonics. Second is how to make a cryopreserved person. And next is the debate about the possibility of cryonics. And next is the future and what improvement there has to be. First is definition. The definition is really long. It's the practice of technique of defreezing the bodies of people who have just died in hope that scientific advantages may allow them to be revived in the future. To abbreviate this, most people, mostly billionaires, use cryonics to revive a few hundred years later because they have an incurable disease, 불치병, or maybe just want to wake up a few hundred years later of curiosity. By the way, cryonics is 인체보존술. Next is the process of how to make cryopreserved bodies. First is the legal declaration of death. Cryonics procedures cannot begin until the person is declared legally dead. But sometimes the procedures start before the heart stops beating to minimize damage from ischemia, which is 국소빈혈. Next is stabilization. After the death, the body is immediately cooled to prevent the damage from biological processes. And then medical teams work to stabilize the body by injecting drugs to prevent clotting, swelling, and also tissue damage. Administer is 관리하다, stabilize is 연장하다,
여기서는 admit가 투약하다겠지.
Yeah,
약이니까.
like inject.
Stabilized.
안정시키다, and clotting is 응고. Next is the cryoprotectant infusion. Cryoprotectant means 동결보호제, which is considered a very important step to make these bodies. The body is cooled to below freezing temperatures, and the cryoprotectants are introduced to prevent the formation of ice crystals. And ice crystals are very fatal and can cause severe damage to cells and tissues. So these chemicals, cryoprotectants, have to preserve the cell integrity during the freezing process. So if you don't use cryoprotectants in this process, the person could not have like a fully working brain or something and have not a functional body. Next is decooling. It's frozen to minus 196 degrees Celsius, which is minus 320 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the temperature the liquid nitrogen is used to preserve the body. And the cooling must be done slowly to prevent thermal stress. Last but not next is storage in liquid nitrogen, and after the step, we have placed in a specially designed cryonic storage container filled in liquid nitrogen, and is kept at an ultra low temperature to halt biological chemical process. Halt means 멈추다, and this is also called putting the person in suspended animation, which is 가사 상태. Next is long-term storage. The body is remained in the container until the technology improved and a few hundred years passed. The Cryonics organization keeps the bodies safe and preserved until they're ready for the revival. This most speculative and most fun part of it is the revival. People don't know if the revival can be possible or not, but one fact is that it needs a lot of medical technology such as nanotechnology or regenerative medicine cell for techniques, which means 태생의학, and nanotechnology means nanogi술. this leads us to our third topic, which is the debate about the possibility of cryonics. People who believe it's possible says that nanotechnology is improving very fast, and a lot of universities succeeded a lot of research to make nano robots, and also the freezing and thawing technology is improving well. Many people, for example, the case of the 27-year embryo, which is in 2020 in December, a couple gave birth to a 27-year-old embryo, which is PATT, and it was frozen for 27 years, but it was the first time that it succeeded on giving birth to it. However, on the other side, people who think it's impossible say that it's nearly impossible to revive in the complete condition. And many people say that using cryoprotectants and all that can be completely wrong and we have to start all over again. The example is that James Bedford's condition in 1991. They had to change the storage container, so they saw James Bedford condition, but his face was discolored, and also there were blood coming out of his nose and mouth. Next is the future and some improvements they have to be for the person to revive in great condition. Some advances in preservation, such as organ cryopreservation and improved vitrification, which is 유리화, and then ethical and legal challenges, because if it succeeds and the people revive, is this the same person or a copy? Or they might have kind of confusion in identity and the legal status. And also the societal and philosophical impacts, because there's no death if we use cryonics. And also the religious views, because most religions think that this is the end of things, but it means that we're never dying and we're like immortal existence. Next is the quiz. Do you have any questions of what I said? If not, let me move on to the quiz. First question is, who was the first person to be cryopreserved? Second is, why do some people think cryonics is possible?
Nanotechnology improving.
The third question is, what kind of impacts will there be after the revival if succeeded? As I said, the answer for the first question is that James Bedford was the first person to be cryopreserved, and some people think cryonics will be possible because the improvement of nanotechnology is increasing, and there will be religious views or population growth, or as you said, ethical challenges. Cryonics has, being an immortal existence and living forever has been humanity's desire.
It's okay. Yeah. People want to.
But if you have the opportunity to be frozen and wake up a few hundred years later, would you try it? Thank you for listening to my presentation.
Okay, good.